In 1992, General Motors did something no engineer would admit to out loud. They took two black Corvettes, identical on the outside, out to a private test track in Michigan. One had a modern, high-tech 32-valve V8 with dual overhead cams designed with help from Lotus. The other had an engine design so old it went back to 1955. Pushrods, 2 valves per cylinder, a single camshaft buried in the block. The kind of engine the entire industry had already declared obsolete. Then they handed the keys to a group of their own executives and told them to drive both and pick. Nobody was told which car had which engine. They chose the old one. Unanimously, that single blind test is a big part of why, 70 years after it was born, General Motors is still building the same basic V8 today in the Silverado in your neighbor's driveway, in the Corvette, in more than 100 million engines and counting. Every other car maker walked away from this design decades ago. GM never could. Not because they were stubborn. Because every single time they tried to replace it, the replacement lost. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly why the engine everyone called outdated kept beating the engines built to bury it what it does that the fancy overhead cam V8s can't, and why in 2026, GM is betting its whole reputation on this same 70-year-old idea one more time. Stay with me. This is one of the strangest survival stories in the history of the automobile. Go back to 1955. Chevrolet introduces the first small block V8, a compact, lightweight, cheap-to-build engine with a single camshaft in the block, working the valves through pushrods. It was not exotic. That was the entire point. It made good power, it was easy to fix, and it fit into almost anything. Over the next few decades, it grew into the legend everyone knows, the 283, the 327, and above all the 350, the engine that powered everything from Corvettes to pickups to school buses. The same basic design soldiered on, refined but fundamentally unchanged, for 40 years. But by the 1990s, the world had moved on, and it had left the pushrod behind. Overhead camshafts were the new standard. European and Japanese engines put the cams up in the heads, which let them use 4 valves per cylinder and spin to much higher RPM. On paper, they were simply more modern. The pushrod V8 was seen as a relic symbol, in the words of one GM chief engineer, of how uncompetitive the American industry had become. Ford had already announced it was killing its own small block for a modern overhead cam design. The pressure on GM to do the same was enormous. So GM had a decision to make for its next generation V8, and it was a real fight inside the company. One camp wanted to finally go modern dual overhead cams, 32 valves, the works. They had even built it. GM had partnered with Lotus to create exactly that kind of engine for the Corvette ZR1. It made big power. It was also complicated, heavy on top, expensive, and full of parts. That is what led to the black Corvettes at the Milford Proving Grounds in May of 1992. The modern Lotus developed twin-cam engine against the old pushrod design, and when GM's own people drove both, without knowing which was which, they did not pick the one that revved higher or looked better on a spec sheet. They picked the one that felt stronger the instant you touched the throttle, the pushrod. Here is the engineering reason underneath that gut feeling, and it is the whole heart of this story. A pushrod engine keeps everything low and compact, 1 camshaft instead of 4. Fewer moving parts. It is shorter, narrower, and lighter than an overhead cam V8 that makes similar power, which means a lower center of gravity, and an engine that drops into a Corvette or a Camaro or a truck without a fight. And because of how it breathes, it makes its torque low and early the shove you feel pulling a trailer or launching off a light. Instead of power, you only reach by screaming toward 8,000 RPM. The outdated design was not worse. It was built for exactly what Americans actually use an engine for. The result of that decision arrived in the 1997 Corvette. GM called it the LS1. It shared almost nothing with the old engine except the idea and one sacred dimension I'll come back to, all aluminum. 345 horsepower, and, incredibly for a V8 of that power, around 25 miles per gallon. People thought GM's ad writers had made the numbers up. They hadn't. What happened next is why enthusiasts talk about this engine like a religion. The LS was designed from the start to be adaptable, and GM built it for 17 years, in the millions. The aluminum version went into the sports cars. A heavier cast iron version went into the trucks and SUVs, where it shrugged off abuse that would kill lesser engines. The bottom end was strong enough from the factory to handle around 700 horsepower. It became the most swapped engine on Earth, dropped into everything from classic muscle cars to Jeeps to imports. Because it is small, light, cheap, everywhere, and nearly unbreakable. If you've ever owned anything with a small block in it, a Chevy, a GMC, a hot rod you built in a driveway, you already feel why this engine won. Do me a favor and subscribe. This channel is about telling the honest story of the engines that actually earned their legend, and this is the biggest one America ever built. Now here's the part that brings it all the way to today. Through all 7 decades and every new generation, one number never changed. The spacing between the cylinder bores, 4.4 inches, has stayed exactly the same since 1955. More than 100 million small blocks share it. It is the thread that ties the engine in a 2026 truck back to the one in a 1955 Bel Air. GM kept it on purpose, because that single dimension is what let 70 years of tooling, knowledge and parts carry forward. But this story does not end in triumph. It ends on a knife's edge right now. The current version of the small block, this 6.2-litre in GM's trucks and SUVs, has been caught in one of the worst reliability crises in the company's modern history: crankshaft and bearing failures. A recall of hundreds of thousands of engines, a federal investigation, lawsuits, the engine that always won, stumbled. And so, for 2027, GM is doing the thing it has done at every crossroads for 70 years. It is not abandoning the small block, it is building a new generation of it, the 6th clean sheet, but still pushrod, still a single cam in the block, still that same 4.4-inch bore spacing. It launches first, as it always does, in a Corvette. GM is betting its reputation, one more time, on the idea a room full of its own executives picked blind in 1992. Every rival went overhead cam decades ago. GM is still proving the pushrod was right. That is the real answer to why GM could never replace this engine. It wasn't nostalgia, and it wasn't laziness. Every time they seriously tried to move on. The old design gave them more of what actually matters in an American vehicle: torque, compactness, simplicity, and a cost no overhead cam V8 could touch, and it did it for less money, in less space, with fewer things to break. The engine everyone called obsolete outlasted every engine built to replace it, for the simple reason that, for the job Americans ask a V8 to do, nothing has beaten it yet. 70 years. 100 million engines, and it is still going. The small block was never the most advanced V8 in the world. It was just the one that kept winning when it counted. If you've owned a small block, which generation and how many miles did you put on it? Tell me in the comments. I read them. And if you want the honest history of the engines that earned their names, not the hype, you know where the subscribe button is.